Hello everyone. So I was a little bit hesitant to do this video because I had said previously I'm not going to try and harp on Hillary Clinton too much, but she keeps popping up in the news and has this crazy idea that she's going to be in a TV show. It's just rumors at this point, but I mean, the rumor is that she's trying to stay relevant so she'll run again. So I'm thinking all bets are off at this point, and if it's like even remotely true, like it needs to be said that this is a disaster. Okay, first of all, your ratings are gonna suck. Like you were literally like disliked, like just maybe a little bit behind Trump. Like that's not that great. So just go home, and I mean she's mostly been out of the public sphere. But look, if she's gonna start popping up again, it's gonna only hurt the Democrats. Like she needs to know this. So, like I say, yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to harp on her, but what I wanted to do is kind of be more nuanced and just give like a real detailed breakdown of this, and hopefully, I don't have to like litigate this all over again. So, I really wanted to just sit down and think about what are the reasons that I think she's good? What are the reasons that I think she's bad? Um, so I came up with 5 reasons why I think she's better than Trump, and why I'm sorry, 5 reasons why I think she's not good. Basically, like I'm not gonna really sit here and say like Trump is really better just because I don't believe Trump. But yeah, I mean, in terms of portraying herself, yeah, it's just not good. So here we go. Why is Hillary better? First reason I'll say is the Supreme Court. And like recently, Trump just chose his top guy, Neil Garoche, I believe his name is. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But I'm surprised a little bit because it is kind of more in the Scalia vein that he said Trump that he wanted to get the next Scalia, and this guy on the surface he seemed a little bit moderate, and I think that was intentional. I think he was trying to kind of not pick someone that was so controversial and beyond the pale, but it's still not the better choice in my opinion. I mean, Merrick Garland would have been probably at least the same, if not better. So yeah, I think in that instance, Hillary kind of has to take that as one of her positives. Secondly, healthcare. It's very up in the air at this point. Like who knows? Like with Obamacare, what's going to happen? But I mean, he's saying he wants to repeal it, and it's going to basically just lead to privatization and not going to be good. It's going to be great for insurance companies, and then people are going to get screwed in the meantime because all the ways that the insurance companies are going to thrive are not going to actually help anyone. It's not like people are going to get better coverage suddenly. It's like the same people that have been ripping you off in the first place, and now there's going to be, I guess, less government regulations. So people have it all backwards. They think somehow the government regulations are forcing the insurance companies to price gouge people, or I don't know what exactly the thought process is, but like no, the business model is what's wrong. The private insurance industry is what's wrong with the system, and every other modern nation has some form of single payer healthcare, and they don't have these problems. In this country, number one cause of bankruptcy is medical bills. That in what is like the greatest country on earth, people say that can't stand. I don't buy that. And of course, Hillary would have at least kept Obamacare the same, if not tried to improve upon it. It looked like she was going more towards being open to a public option. So I think that is an area where she's better. Immigration and foreign policy kind of a question mark on the second part. But immigration, more recently, the travel ban that's been enacted by Trump by executive order, has caused so much chaos, and it's all for naught, really. I mean, like, this thing is not going to make anyone safer. It's worth noting how no fatal terrorist attack has come from one of these countries, or one of the 7 countries that's on the list. And Saudi Arabia is left off the list. If you were going to ban I'm sorry, if you were to make a list of countries you wanted to ban because of terrorism, Saudi Arabia would have to be on that list. That was the origin for most of the 9/11 hijackers. So, and of course, Trump has businesses registered in Saudi Arabia. He just opened a golf course there, I believe. So there's no actual principle here. It's just he wanted to ban people that were from countries where we're bombing, and I just don't see the logic in it, because it's going to make us less safe. It's going to make people hate the U.S. more. We have a great vetting system as is. It takes, months on average, like over 12 months. So, and Hillary obviously would have never done anything quite to that extent, despite how people are trying to make the false equivalents. Oh, Obama put some restrictions on visas, and I think it's kind of like what Trump did. Well, no, what Trump is doing affects green card holders, and it affects American citizens that are traveling back and forth between these countries. So that is, honestly, I think, unconstitutional. And this is an area, I'll get to that later, actually. I'm sorry. It led into another thought, but we're going to get to that. Next area I'll say is the environment. Hillary Clinton has kind of a bad record when it comes to fracking, but overall she's going to be more inclined to care about climate change, whereas Trump doesn't even seem to believe it exists, took climate change off the White House website, and okayed the Dakota Access Pipeline, Keystone XL pipeline. Well, and first of all, Hillary wouldn't have okayed Dakota Access at the very least, I think. I don't think she would have okayed Keystone XL either, but, certainly Dakota Access, because Obama turned it down while he was still in office. So the precedent was there, and we're totally regressing when it comes to climate change. I mean, scientists are afraid to speak out. He put out this gag order where scientists are not allowed to share their research and their findings, and they're afraid to speak out. That cannot happen in a free and open society. We're clearly losing sight of our values if that's the case, if that's what's the Trump's policy is going to be. And yeah, that leads me to civil rights. I think this is very important, and people are going to say, like, oh, well, he's not going to do that. He's not a dictator. Has limited power. The president has a ton of power, okay? And we're already seeing legislation being enacted where you can shoot protesters, arrest them for no just cause. And now that the NSA has the capabilities, they're spying on people. This has happened under Obama, and it's going to continue under Trump. And I think Hillary would have at least been closer to the better side of things. Like, probably there would have been some spying under Hillary, but it's going to be spying under Trump. It'll probably be even more malicious. That's what my prediction is, at least. And when it comes to LGBT rights, recently he said that he's going to protect LGBT workers' rights, like in the workplace they have rights. That's good. We'll see if we can actually hold him accountable to that. But I don't think the conversation is done there. I think there's a lot of gay issues like gay marriage. He could suddenly turn around and say, "Oh, I think it should be a states' rights issue," and that is going to. The Supreme Court's already ruled that across the country, gay marriage is legal, but we don't know. And honestly, if he were to hold that position, if we were to have Republican support for this like states' rights thing that they seem to really like, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of discrimination. And sorry, maybe we would have seen that under Hillary, but there would have been a rational response probably. When it comes to abortion, I mean, Trump said we should um, punish women who get abortions. And that's like honestly pretty extreme even for Republicans. They want to make it illegal, but I don't know of any Republican who said like we have to punish people if they do it. Uh, it could be a states' rights thing there too. Like they'll say the states have to decide. Um, and I mean to some extent maybe I'm okay with that. Uh, Probably not actually, just me personally. But if a state votes a certain way, I guess when you're asking that question about abortion and states' rights, it's going to come down to what specific ways they're going to carry out the law. So Roe versus Wade, it's legal, but it's not exactly. There's no universal way to do it. So different states will disagree over certain things, and of course, states they vote certain ways and they like make it practically impossible for a state to have abortion. You have extremists in there and they vote a certain way, and then you just can't do it because of tedious regulation, and actually tedious regulation. And that's not right too. That I believe we just had a Supreme Court case about this that basically said it's unconstitutional in Texas. So that's an area where Hillary would have, I think, been better than Trump. Yeah, and just again to talk about the protesters and their civil rights under Trump. We're seeing this within levels of government too, because he just fired the acting attorney general. It just so happens that Jeff Sessions, I believe back in 2015, talked to Sally Yates, who was the attorney general just fired, and she said, not cryptically at all, I think my responsibility is to follow the laws and the Constitution and give independent legal advice to the president. And this was in response to like, okay, if the president wants you to do something that's outside of whatever norm, whatever level of respectability that you're allowed, then you're going to follow that, right? That's not the way it works. I mean, if you have a president that's going to ask for something unconstitutional in any way, the whole reason we have oversight and branches of government is that's how it works. We have to have a system where we're not just having a tyrant run everything. And so he fired this attorney general because it seemed evidently clear because of a federal court ruling that this ban was not constitutional, at the very least for certain people that were included in the ban. So she was following the orders of a federal judge, and then Trump fired her. That is not good. That is not a good sign at all. That shows you that Trump is willing to just take any governmental figure out of the way. He's going to move them out and fire them if they dissent to him at all and want to stand by the law, basically. Or I mean, just more broadly, if he's going to do something that is unjust. I think we should focus, specifically on the law, though. Like, if it's against our Constitution or laws written, then it is the duty of you as a public servant to follow the law. It should be simple as that. So now we're getting to areas where I think she's kind of worse. Areas at least where Hillary Clinton is lacking. Um, Her assertiveness and lack of solid messaging is a huge problem, and especially if she's going to considering running again. She has to totally rethink everything. I am not in favor of her running again, by the way. But, I mean, come on. She had no solid message. It was all just basically, we're going to keep everything the same. Any change that we have is going to be incremental change. It's going to be add-ons to things that were already there. There was no vision, and I've said this many times, but that's not going to be good. She should have known the election she was running in. She should have been aware that she had to be the candidate of change, and she wasn't. So you can't accept that. You have to demand more. Not enough people demanded more of her, apparently, but honestly, I don't think she would have listened because she has a ton of hubris, and she's has experience to back up all of her decisions and say, I think I'm doing the right thing. Woo! Break the glass ceiling. Yeah, great. I'm all for that. You know what? If you want to break records, then do it. But you didn't go all the way. You were just another empty suit. And it's true. It's true. I'll say it. And a part of this is the lack of a good strategy. I mean, she totally made terrible decisions in terms of trying to actually get the votes she needed. She tried to bend over backwards to appease Republicans, like literally going and meeting with Bush neocons for their support, for their donor money. Now, we have the internet now. Younger people see that and they're turned off by it. And someone in that war room, in her campaign, should have said, hey, people are going to see this and they're not going to like you for it. If anything, Hillary, why don't you go for some donors that are a little bit more safe, more on the liberal side, and just do that. But no, she had to court the neocon donors that were part of Jeb Bush's campaign and just, close with the Bush family. People look at that and they say, oh, okay, she's just basically a sellout. And they're kind of right. Problems in her campaign. Look, we had activists on the ground in places like Michigan. People were part of Bernie Sanders' campaign and said, hey, come here. There's a lot of problems here. And no one's addressing them. And we're seeing support for Trump like we've never seen. I mean, more people voted in the Republican primary in Michigan than they ever had in previous elections. That's a terrible sign. You should see that and be worried. Or if you're not going to be worried, you know what? I'll give you that. It's the Democratic firewall, and you're all confident. Sure. Well, why don't you just say it's easy turf for me? I'll make a handful of stops, and not just your campaign. She sent Bill Clinton out a bunch of times just to speak for her. Go out yourself. Have an actual message to present to the people and show that you can relate to people. And then that's it. That's what I think she had to do. Not this whole, like, I'm going to push you away, I think I'm good enough attitude. That was clearly not enough. So that had to change. It's really a disingenuous quality about her where she thinks she's like, I don't know, the arbiter of humanity, and like anything that goes past her is just automatically good. But like, she has such hubris and boasts such just litany of of things that I don't even think anyone cares or knows about. And we all know what she's really known for is all of her blunders, which include voting for the Patriot Act, the Iraq War. There's the famous story Elizabeth Warren talked her into talking Bill Clinton, who was president at the time. She talked Bill Clinton into vetoing this bill that was going to favor bankruptcy laws in favor of the banks. So Hillary Clinton was good there, and then when she got into the Senate, she voted in favor of that same bill. And it shows you kind of like the, I guess, revolving door in a way, and how power and influence change when you're in different positions in government. When as Secretary of State, she orchestrated the intervention in Libya, which led to more uprising, radical uprising. And she's in favor of more intervention in Syria. No surprise there. Trying to be all big against Putin, probably. They had like a personal beef, apparently, and that's why she says that Putin had it out for her. Excuse me. I guess she had some influence over an election that happened in Russia. Or maybe it wasn't Russia. I don't know. Well, regardless, these blunders are things that she just never addresses. It's always just blowing it off, and it's the standard politician talk. I'm going to drone on now and give you some long talking point that is going to go over most Americans' heads after like 2 seconds. She didn't come off as a genuine person, and Trump is clearly not just a regular person. He's a billionaire, but he put on this facade of a genuine person with genuine thoughts. Believe it or not, I understand the guy is a buffoon, but when you listen to him talk, it sounds less scripted, sounds more genuine, like it's really just coming from his brain, right? Hillary Clinton, it's totally just prepared talking points that are not. It's going to reach out to people that are intellectuals, but not the vast majority of Americans. So, off the mark there. Just off the mark. She had to be a completely different person, and probably it had to be a completely different candidate. And then her position on trade is a pretty no-brainer. She was against pretty much the whole country on TPP. It was probably never going to pass in Congress. There was so little support for it. And she came out against it because Bernie pushed her there. But Trump totally pummeled her in the debate. He called her out and said, you lobbied for it 40 times, and he called it the gold standard. So it was a total fail on her part there. And had she had been a little bit more open and just come to terms with the fact of what she said, she tried to totally spin it and say like, oh, I wasn't in favor of it until I read it. Well, then you were lobbying for it 40 times. So, I mean, they both can't be true. So it's just totally disingenuous. And then money in politics is a surprising one, actually, because this is a liberal position, really, to take money out of politics. But Trump, in the rhetoric, had her. I don't trust Trump, and I don't think that he's going to actually do anything to fix corruption. His cabinet, they're all kind of like insider people who have been around government and have been contributing to his campaign. Betsy DeVos is one example, has given millions to Trump's campaign, let alone the entire Republican Party. So it's all the same old game there. But in terms of the rhetoric, she missed out on a huge opportunity. Huge. She missed out because she wouldn't voice that opinion. And I know she did like a handful of times. There's like during the primary season, after the Iowa caucus, if I'm not mistaken, she spoke about that in a speech. But it wasn't there enough. It had to be there every time we saw her. Why? Because that's popular with people. Talking about corruption and fixing our system, that's what Obama talked about. And simple logic should just tell you, oh, Obama did this, I'll do it too. But no. Apparently, she thought things were just nice and cozy where they are right now. Trump wasn't going to have that, and he took up that opportunity. And I think he knew that because he knew Hillary Clinton is an insider person and was not going to really be that powerful on the issue. Yeah, if anything, Hillary's going to keep things the same, probably. Or maybe make some incremental change, but he knew that he could snatch up that opportunity to basically utilize disdain towards government in Washington. You see, because of the corruption, people have a lot of distrust for their government. I mean, Congress has a 9 to 20% approval rating. Horrendous. And they conflate the corruption of the system with the merits of the actual system itself. I mean, so it's a little bit like how you have communism, except it hasn't really been practiced in theory before because it always turns into a dictatorship. The same kind of argument is you can make about America. Like, we think of ourselves as a democracy, but we actually function as an oligarchy, according to a Princeton study. So this is where Hillary Clinton's at. She had a lot of positives that I think, at the end of the day, she's the lesser of two evils, and that is something that should always apply. But she could have been so much better. And to be honest, I don't think she's going to change any at all. I wouldn't hold my breath. So what is the solution? The solution is we need Bernie Sanders. We need someone at least like Bernie Sanders who is going to talk about real issues that affect people, that are popular, and it's not even just about talking about them. Talk about your solutions. Talk about your plans. Bernie proposes things in Congress all the time, and I think he probably knows a lot of it is not going to pass, but he's out there trying to get legislation through that's going to help people. And there wasn't a clear solution being presented a lot of the time with Hillary. Or if it was so complex and nuanced, like nobody could even understand it. So that, I think, is more preparation. She could have went out there and prepared some nice phrases that would have explained what she wanted, but she didn't. She sounded, to me at least, more like a political science professor than a leader. Bernie Sanders has a way of talking to people that is accessible, and it's straightforward, and you know what he means. You don't have to really think twice about it. So that's what we need. We need people that are just going to keep it real with you. And there's a new movement out called Justice Democrats, started by Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk. And I'm all for this movement. I think what it is basically is an overtaking of the Democratic Party by the progressive wing, the true progressive wing of people that are against taking corporate money, and they want to see money taken out of politics. And the idea is get these corporate Democrats out of power, and we'll put in real candidates that are going to actually fight for these issues and not just sell out once they get into power, or like right before they're going to get into power. So check that out, justicedemocrats.com. Yeah. And stay politically active out there. I know it's tough. I know it's a turbulent time for everyone, but just keep your head up.